This is going to be a fun video. I've kind of amassed a few things on Temu that I think are good for like playing some games on the go, doing some work on the go, and also having a little bit of fun. So I'm going to go through a few of those things, and I've also got a really crazy Thunderbolt 3 hub that I want to show you. So I picked up all this stuff on Temu. If you use the app, you get like $100 in coupons. That link is going to be in the description. Full disclosure, I don't put any shopping apps on my phone whatsoever. And I think a lot of people in our audience are kind of like that as well. We want to be able to manage our own cookies and our own digital footprint and our privacy. So you can go to their website, and I'll put some links in the description so you can still take advantage of all those coupons. And right now they got their mega shopping festival going on right now. There's a lot of stuff on here, and in my opinion, it can almost be a little bit overwhelming. So I've gone through and selected a few things that I think are good in a few different categories. And I'm going to start off with this tablet, because I think a lot of people, when they're just doing some like light traveling or just going from place to place, back and forth to work, they don't need a full-on laptop. A lot of times you can get by with a tablet. And so that's what I'm kind of thinking about right here with this Teclast T50 Plus. It's an 11-inch tabloid with Android 14. It's an IPS screen, so it looks really good. You've got the nice viewing angles and everything on both sides. And I wanted to see how fast this was, because I'm not too familiar with the Unisoc T620 octa-core CPU. So I wanted to see how fast it was. And the first thing I always do is, play video games. But I am also going to run Antutu so you can compare it to all the other devices out there. I hear some of you like numbers, so I ran Antutu benchmark 10.4.3. And I got to be honest, I don't use Android enough to know what a lot of this stuff means, but we'll go through it anyway, and you can just take a look and compare it to the other devices you might be looking at and just see if these numbers make sense to you. So there we go. Look at all that. The way I generally judge Android devices is just by how they feel while I'm using them, and also by what you can do with them. Now this one has 6 gigabytes of RAM, a nice 256 gigabyte internal storage device, but you can expand that by putting an SD card or a micro SD card in there. It goes right into the SIM card slot, which it also has, and you can use up to a 1 terabyte right there to expand it even further, fill it full of movies or games or whatever you want to fill it up with. You can do that. We also have an 8,000 milliamp hour battery, 13 megapixel camera with all kinds of fancy stuff. They even say Wi-Fi camera. 8 megapixel on the front as far as the camera goes, and then we have Type-C for our charging, and the Type-C also works if you want to plug it up to a hub. I tried it out with a Steam, like a docking port for the Steam Deck, and it worked just fine. All the USB ports work, so while I'm playing my video games, I actually plugged it up to the docking station, and then I plugged one of our Fennec wireless controllers in there, which shows up as an Xbox controller. So I'm just sitting back using an Xbox controller to play all my ROMs and all my emulators. Well, for me, the speed on this, it's good enough to play GameCube, and that's a big deal for me. GameCube looks beautiful on an 11-inch IPS, in my opinion, as you can see here from Zelda. When this game first came out, I was like kind of weirded out by the graphics, but the cell shading and everything, it holds up even now in 2025. So they made the right decision there, because the older graphics from the older Zelda games don't hold up nearly as well. Maybe some of the pixel art ones like Link to the Past. But anyway, I think it looks really good. So you got a fiberglass body as well. So it feels good, but it's not extremely heavy. And I got the version that comes with a keyboard and a case. The case also works as a stand. So it's like this somewhat translucent plastic, somewhat rigid plastic case that snaps on around the sides and feels pretty good. It feels just like something you would snap on a phone, but a lot bigger. And then it has a bottom that folds across to, you close the lid essentially. And then if you want to use it as a stand, it folds into a little triangle on the back. It's easy. It's not as floppy and as annoying as some of these floppy, annoying stands. It's not like that, because I think one of the things that makes it nicer is the fact that the back is attached, and then you just fold around the stand portion of it. Nice and stable, doesn't flop around too much and just sits on your desk. The keyboard is a basic keyboard, and I already actually have one of these because it's sort of a standard Bluetooth model, about the same size as the 11-inch tablet, so it's not attached. It's just a Bluetooth keyboard, and it works, fine. One of the things I like about having this Bluetooth keyboard is now I can play my DOS games if I wanted to, so I can boot those up in RetroArch and play those. Now I've installed Show, and I'll make a separate video on how to do all kinds of Android gaming on this, but you can play so many different games on this device, and the fact that it's an IPS screen means it's going to look pretty. Last up, I want to mention the resolution, because this is not 1920 by 1080. It's actually 16 by 10, 1920 by 1200. And I like that a lot because I'm going to be playing a lot of 4x3 games. There's going to be less of a pillar box on the side of the screen. I like that. Makes the image a little bit bigger. It's also really nice for productivity work, having a 16 by 10 screen. If you are using websites and documents and stuff, you'll just have a little bit more that you can use there. A few more pixels on the bottom. So yeah, the Teclast T50 Plus is nice. The last thing I want to say is I did not use any Google stuff on this. I just did everything with Obtainium. You can install F-Droid or something on there, and you can set it up without Google. So I did not use Google at all for this, and it works just fine, and I've got all my apps on there using Obtainium, and they'll be, updated, and you can keep them up to date easily using just that without even touching Google, so you don't have to sign on with a Google account, and I think that's pretty cool. So next up I want to talk about gaming on the go, and I've got this here. This is a GameSir G8 Plus. It turns your phone into like a little mobile console, and I was shocked. I've used some GameSir stuff in the past, and it was good, but it wasn't on this quality. This controller feels better than most first-party controllers. It feels good all the way around. It is, if you pair it with your phone, it can feel a little bit heavy because it's a substantial device, depending on the size of your phone and all that, but it's very well made. It feels so solid in my hands. You have knurling on the back to give it a nice grip. The sticks are Hall effect, so you're not going to worry about, you're not going to have to worry about any drift or any nonsense like that. The D-pad is also extremely satisfying, and it has a nice click to it. The buttons are nice and poppy and not mushy, and they're not bulging out too much, so they're hard to press. It's just a very well thought out device. And then we have a select and start on either side of the screen. So the way this works is pretty cool. It just has like a spring-loaded section in the middle, so it'll expand and contract, and then it's got like rubber around that grips onto your phone or your device, and it can sleep itself when it's all the way contracted, but then when you pull it, it will wake back up. It works on Android and iOS. I mean, it'll work on just about anything. You could even make it work with your computer because it's Bluetooth. And it shows up, you can set it up to show up as like a regular controller, or you can have it just show up as like an Xbox controller, which is what I did with most of this. I mean, you can use it with Steam Link, Moonlight, whatever. So I've got, a phone that's a little bit older. It's a Sony Xperia 5.3 or whatever. I like it because it's a weird small phone. I don't like big phones, but it'll accommodate your bigger phones as well. It's wireless 2.4G or Bluetooth, and if you want the lower latency, you can go with wireless 2.4G, but it's up to you depending on your device. Now, I think this is a really interesting option because there's a lot of people out there who are looking at a lot of these mobile consoles, and you see the mobile console, and it's like, yeah, that's really cool, and I can get myself a mobile Android console or whatever, but then you've got this phone that you paid like $500, sometimes they're worth $1,000. They've got faster CPUs, they've got 8 gigabytes of RAM, 12 gigabytes of RAM. They have a really fast Mali GPU or similar. So a lot of times you're carrying around these devices that have so much power, and you're not using that power. You're not playing games. You're not doing much with it. This is a cool way to do that. You can just hook one of these up, and suddenly you've got a portable console. If you were traveling, throw this in your backpack, and then just whip it out whenever you want to play some games. And it feels so much more comfortable than a lot of the little square consoles that I've messed with, a lot of little handheld consoles. It feels so comfortable that it's actually made me think maybe I should upgrade my phone, because I didn't really have any reason to upgrade my phone, but now I'm like, if I upgraded my phone, I could play Switch and everything with this, And it even has like some L4 and R4 buttons on the back here where your fingers are, so it's got all the buttons. The analog on top are also Hall effect. GameSir, you did a really good job here. Now, I want to also mention that there are a couple different versions of this. This one doesn't come with anything to charge. If anyone that comes with charging, well, they do make one right here with the USB-C, and then you can plug it in on the bottom there to charge it. All right, next up, let's take a look at this docking station. So I've kind of been on a kick when it comes to docking stations, and that's because some of the motherboards that I've been messing around with and some of the laptops and tablets that I've been messing around with don't have a lot of USB ports. And that's kind of frustrating, but I mean, can understand it when they only have so many lanes to mess with and they have to like allocate those lanes to PCI Express or whatever. So I just need more USB. And a lot of times you'll have a USB 4 port or a USB 3 port or a Thunderbolt port on your motherboard or your device. And that's why I like looking at these Thunderbolt docks. Now this is a Thunderbolt 3 dock, which is also compatible with USB 4 and USB 3.2. So I want you to think about this while I'm messing around with this. Everything I'm doing here, I'm doing so with a USB 3.2 port. I've got 3 monitors, 1080p, 1080p. My center monitor is 1440p, and I'm running it at 144 hertz. At 144 hertz right there. So I'll show you where I've got these things plugged in. There's the graphics card right here in the back of the machine. You can see I've unplugged everything from the back of the graphics card right there. Do you see? Nothing plugged in. It is all plugged in right here to the Totu. The Totu? Yes, the Totu. All 3 of those things plugged in right there. Get some light back here so you can see. I love cable management, as you can tell. This is the proper cable management, in my opinion. So then we got all these USB things plugged in as well. I've got another USB hub plugged in, and that's powering the microphone and everything else. And then I've got Ethernet as well. That's 2.5 gigabit. And over here I have inserted, there we go, I've inserted an SD card over there. So let's come up and see how fast the SD card is. All right, let's drag and drop this over here on the desktop. All right, around 100 megabytes a second. So like high speed, but not the highest speed I've ever seen. Like pretty high speed. All right, so let's take a look at all the ins and outs on the Thunderbolt 3 docking station that I have. There's all kinds of these, but the one I have on the front here, we've got two USB 3.0. We've got our audio ports right there. We've got two of those. And then we have our micro SD card and our regular SD. Flip it around to the back. We've got USB, again, USB 2.0, another USB 2.0, USB 3.0. Then we have two DisplayPort and one HDMI port. And then you have your USB-C. It's going to be your Thunderbolt 3 or just your USB 4 or 3.2 connection to your computer. We have another USB-C port right there. And we have our gigabit Ethernet. Now, for the money, I think this is really good because I've got one that's got a few more ports and a few more options and a few more bells and whistles, but it was like $300. So that's why I wanted to look at something in a different price range with maybe Thunderbolt 3 instead of Thunderbolt 4, because I think for most people, Thunderbolt 3 is going to do just fine. Other thing I want to mention when you're messing around with this, you do need to install DisplayLink. And you can grab that from Synaptics. I think there's also a Windows Store version of this that might be a little bit more up to date, but DisplayLink will let you use the DisplayPort. If you're just doing HDMI, it works just fine out of the box. You don't need to worry about anything. You don't need DisplayLink. But if you're going to be doing the full deal, well, then you'll want to install DisplayLink. But I'm able to use all three of the monitors. I'm able to transfer stuff at the same time. So you can use all of that at the same time, and it just works, including, using a high refresh rate on my 1440p monitor. All right, the last thing I want to set up, and I didn't build this yet, so forgive me for just showing you some of the bricks, but the patent on the Lego format, it's up. It's been up for a while, and that makes me really happy because now we can see all these Lego compatible creations that are really cool and really interesting. And I've been looking at this JMBricklayer stuff for a while. I haven't tried them. I've tried a couple of the other brands that are out there, and this one comes with an LED string light as well, which is awesome. So you can make this little glowing blacksmith area. But there's 3 different versions here. I kind of want to get them and line them all up. And the main reason I didn't build this is because I started building it and I was like, I'm moving soon and I don't really have space. So I'm going to show you the bricks. They look really good. They feel really good. They seem about, similar to Lego quality. Some of the stuff's hollow on the inside, whereas it's not hollow on the inside with the Lego versions. There's support structures, but I think overall the compatibility is there. The style is there. The color is there. It could almost be made in the same factory. So if you want something that's a little bit of fun, and I like the fact that they're doing their own stuff, that's important to me. Like Lego right now, I feel like they're just kind of doing too many tie-ins to too many major brands, and I really do miss the creative. I know we got the Creator Series and everything, but if you just look for my own creations and look for some of the stuff here, and even when I was over there in China and Hong Kong looking around, I was like, they have so many different random sets that are completely just different and not tied to any major IP, not tied to, Star Wars or Harry Potter or whatever. It's their own thing. So this is really cool. If you're someone who's into building blocks and all that, like me, if you grew up on that, put on some old video game soundtracks and sit down and build one of these and have a nice time, then put it on the shelf. Anyway, that's all the stuff I grabbed from Temu. Remember, all those coupons and everything are in the description. If you get the app, you get it, but I don't use the app, so we got all those links down there in the description for you, and I'll put a link to all these products that we talked about. Let me know what you thought was interesting. And remember, there's a ton of stuff on there. If you know what you're doing, you can get some good stuff that's well made, but you just have to go in there and kind of sift through some of the stuff. You can buy really inexpensive things here and there, but sometimes I've found that if you look for the quality stuff, spend a couple extra bucks, you'll get something that'll last a long time and that'll meet your needs. So that's how I use Temu. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you later.